Rivals Radio.
Welcome back to Rivals Radio. Big night ahead. The Tokyo Riot's first ever game in the Pro League.
Yeah.
Before the Riot take on the Portland Grunge, we're taking a deep dive into their wild rebuild, recapping some of the biggest moments from opening week across the league. You ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay. So first, let's rewind back to the very first game of the Pro League season. The Canton Crush. Remember, these guys were at the bottom of the league last year. They went head-to-head with the Sacramento Peaks and pulled off a huge 29-3 upset.
Yeah, it really set the tone for what we've seen so far this season. Anything can happen. The Crush's rookie QB, Jimmy McNamara, was absolutely phenomenal. He had a 72% completion rate, threw for 377 yards, and didn't throw a single interception.
Yeah.
For a rookie in his first pro game, those are unheard of numbers.
He was incredible to watch. You could just feel the excitement in the stadium.
Yeah.
Speaking of exciting plays, we can't forget about undrafted free agent Brandon Hawkins.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Stein converted him from wide receiver to halfback during the offseason, and that move paid off big time.
Hawkins scored 2 touchdowns, becoming the first player to ever score in the Pro League. That's a moment he'll never forget. And it really speaks to Coach Stein's eye for talent and his willingness to think outside the box.
Totally. That kind of creative coaching can really shake things up.
Yeah.
So the Crush definitely made history, but the rest of opening week was pretty wild too. The Kansas City Mob dominated the LA Reign.
Right.
But like you mentioned earlier, anything can happen.
Right.
And Reign quarterback George Burrell went down with an injury early in the first quarter.
Yeah, that definitely put a damper on things for the Reign. Burrell is their star player, so his absence was definitely felt. We'll have to see how they perform when he's back in the lineup.
Absolutely. Now the Philadelphia Fury,
Yeah.
led by zero-year MVP QB Nigel Crothers, they definitely lived up to the hype in their game against the Oklahoma City natives. And then you've got the Pittsburgh Prowlers, who showed off their strength on both sides of the ball in a big road win against the Toronto Blizzards.
Yeah, the Prowlers looked really impressive. They're definitely a team to watch this season.
Definitely a strong start to the season, with some exciting wins and standout performances. Now let's turn our attention to the Tokyo Riot. They went through a complete overhaul in the offseason, and tonight is their first chance to show the league what they're made of.
It's been a complete transformation. Coach Frye came in and immediately shook things up, saying, we are going to be tougher, we are going to be meaner, we are going to surprise everyone.
Those are some bold words. You got to admire the confidence. So how did Coach Frye actually translate that vision into a team? What were some of the key moves they made in free agency and the draft?
Well, they made a huge splash in free agency by signing veteran quarterback Ramon Hamilton. He's always been a reliable backup, but this is his chance to shine as the starting QB. And they completely restructured their receiving core, bringing in a mix of veterans and young talent. They added wide receivers Jaron Goodhead, Isaiah Proctor, and Alfonso Hopkins, all known for their speed and playmaking ability.
It sounds like they're really prioritizing that offensive firepower.
Yeah.
What about their draft strategy?
They focused on building a strong foundation on both sides of the ball. With their first pick, they went with Will Lane, a dominant defensive end from Texas A&M. This guy's a sack machine. He set a single-season sack record in college and was part of a national championship team.
Lane sounds like a real difference maker on defense. Did they continue that trend with their other draft picks?
Absolutely. They doubled down on Texas A&M talent in the second round, drafting powerhouse halfback Johnny the Hobbit Hobbs. It was another key player on that championship team, known for his tough running style. And they added even more defensive muscle with Justin Harrell, a quick and disruptive defensive tackle from Oregon.
So they've got the speed, they've got the power, and they've got a coach who isn't afraid to make bold moves.
Right.
But it's one thing to assemble a talented roster. It's another thing to make it all work on the field.
Exactly. That's what we're going to unpack in the next part of our deep dive, the potential challenges the Riot might face, and whether they have what it takes to compete in the Pro League. One of the most intriguing things about this Riot rebuild is how Coach Frye has embraced this bad guy persona. Remember that quote?
Yeah.
Somebody has to be the bad guy. This isn't a fairy tale. The bad guys can win, and winning solves everything. It's definitely a unique approach.
It's definitely got people talking, but what does that actually mean for the team's strategy and their playing style? Do you think it'll translate to wins?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it could definitely give them an edge. Coach Frye is fostering this us against the world mentality, which can be incredibly powerful, and their aggressive roster moves definitely reflect that.
Let's talk about one of those moves. The decision to move Jerry Bronson, their star wide receiver, to tight end. What do you think of that decision?
It's a gamble for sure, but it could pay off big time. Bronson has always been a physical player, but he wasn't always consistent at wide receiver. Moving him to tight end could really maximize his strength.
He's got the size and speed to be a real mismatch nightmare for defenses. Imagine him lining up against smaller defensive backs or slower linebackers. It could create some real opportunities for the Riot offense.
Exactly. And they've surrounded him with some other exciting weapons. They brought in those speedy wide receivers we talked about earlier, and they drafted Adam Daniels, the fastest tight end in the draft. They've got a lot of options in the passing game.
And don't forget about Darrell Bailey, the athletic running back they signed in free agency. They've got a lot of potential on that side of the ball. But let's talk about the other side, the defense. You mentioned Will Lane and Justin Harrell earlier. What kind of impact do you think they'll have?
They're both young players, but they've got the potential to be game changers. Lane is a relentless pass rusher who's going to cause havoc in the backfield, and Harrell is incredibly quick and disruptive for a defensive tackle. If those two can live up to their potential, the Riot defense could be a real force.
So we've got a team with a new coach, a new philosophy, and a completely revamped roster. But how do you think all of those pieces will fit together? What are some of the challenges they might face?
One of the biggest challenges will be building chemistry. They've got a lot of new faces, so it'll take time for them to gel as a unit. And they're going to be facing some tough competition in the Pro League. Every team is hungry to win.
And speaking of tough competition,
Yeah.
let's talk about tonight's matchup against the Portland Grunge. The Grunge are favored to win this one, but do you think the Riots have a chance to pull off an upset?
It's definitely going to be a tough game. The Grunge have a strong defense, led by their rookie pass rusher, Brandon Smith. He was the 3rd overall pick in the draft, and he's already living up to the hype. But the Riots have a few things going for them. Well, first of all, they've got the element of surprise. No one really knows what to expect from them, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They want to prove that they belong in the Pro League.
That underdog mentality can be dangerous. It can really fuel a team.
Exactly. And they've got some weapons that could exploit Portland's weaknesses. If Bronson can create mismatches at tight end, and their speedy receivers can find space in the secondary, they could put up some points.
So what's the key to a Riot victory tonight? What do they need to do to come out on top?
They need to control the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line needs to protect Ramon Hamilton and give him time to throw. And their defensive line needs to put pressure on Portland's quarterback. If they can win those battles, they'll have a chance.
It's going to be an exciting matchup. Two young teams, both eager to make a statement. Before we go, any final thoughts on this Riot rebuild?
It's been fascinating to watch unfold. Coach Frye has taken a lot of risks, but he's also shown a clear vision for this team. And they've definitely got the talent to be successful. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out on the field, starting with tonight's game in Portland.
We'll be watching closely. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Make sure to tune in tonight for the Riot's big debut against the Portland Grunge. It's going to be a must-watch game.
Enjoy the game, everyone. And remember, anything can happen in the Pro League.
That's right. We'll be back next week with another deep dive. Until then, this is Rivals Radio signing off.
It's Rivals Radio.